Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Tracy, if you haven't been here before. And this is an upcycling channel where we take thrifted items, clothes out of your closet, breathe new life into them, and create fun, one-of-a-kind clothes, purses, and accessories. Now, I like to say this is a DIY video and not a tutorial, because a tutorial makes me think I'm the teacher, you're the student, do it this way. Oh no, upcycling does not work like that. Your items will be different than mine. So you will need to use your own engineering, your own creativity. And this is a community of so many wonderful creative people, and I have learned as much from you as you probably have from me. Today I want to make a statement necklace. It's going to be long. It will be made with a leather heart from a thrifted jacket and other thrifted jewelry parts and found treasures. Let's get started. I am going to use a leather jacket that I thrifted, and when I can find a good deal at the thrift store, I'll pick up leather jackets. I use these for so many things: fringe for purses, necklace today, and just other embellishments and things for other projects. And when I get these home, I wash and dry them. I put it in my washer in cold water and I dry them on a normal setting. Now, if you're going to wear your jacket, you don't want to do that because they'll shrink. Sometimes suede will get a little water spot or something. But I find that leather a lot of times has odors and stuff because it's very expensive to dry clean and they probably haven't been cleaned often. So I cut a square out of the sleeve of the jacket. Now this one has a nice texture to it, which I want for this necklace. And now I need a heart pattern. So I just made my own heart pattern. Mine is 4.5 inches tall at the tallest point and 3.25 inches across. And all I did was just take a piece of copy paper, folded it, and drew out half of a heart and cut it out. Now I'm going to turn my leather piece over. This is kind of a suede feel on the back. And I'm going to trace my heart. I need 2. And then when I trace the second, I will flip it over just in case this isn't symmetrical in any area. That way it'll line up when I put it together. And now I'm just cutting them out. I'm sticking the wrong sides together, which is the suede area together. And I'm going to cut that little V a little deeper. Okay, so I am just taking one of the heart pieces right now, choosing it to be my front. And I have this cool, I've had this for a long time. It's a deer, I think it's vintage. It was on a bracelet and I've had it for a long time. On the back, it has these little hooks right here. And I'm going to use that to my advantage to help tie that to the front of the heart. Now I'm just centering this on my heart, and I don't want it to come up too high because I am going to have to sew here and I don't want that metal to get in the way. So I think that is good. I'm just going to kind of hold it with my thumb, and next to that hole area, that loop, I am going to take a hole punch. This is, I don't know, I always say they're a leather hole punch, and I'll put a link to my description for one of these if you're interested and don't have one. But it has all these different settings. I'm using the very smallest, and I am going to go next to that hole there and punch a hole. Now I'm going to go make sure my deer is straight. I'm going to go to that other loop and I'm going to punch a hole right next to that one. Okay, so now I'm just taking some black embroidery thread. I fed it through a needle. I don't know sizes of needles. It's just I find stuff laying around here and use it. It's big enough for my embroidery thread. I didn't double this. I left a little tail hanging after I thread it, and I did not knot it. Now, here's one hole. I'm going to come up from behind and slide that through. And I'm going to leave a kind of a long piece hanging because I will need that to tie it off when I'm all finished. And then I'm going to take my little deer and thread this through one loop and the other. Oh. And now I'm going to go from the top side through that other hole that I made. And I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to tie that off. I'll probably tie like 3 knots. And now I'm just going to trim that off. Now I want to tie this little deer down in a couple more spots. And one spot will be right here. And one will be right here. So I will have to move him over and make a hole punch there, one there, and one there. Bring my embroidery thread up through the back, down through the top, and tie those off just like I did here. Okay, there's my little threads right there. Now I don't feel the top part is as secure as I want it, so I'm going back to my embroidery thread. This time I'm doubling it, but I still don't have a knot in it. And I'm going to just repeat that process and tie it off. It'll be a little thicker, fill that hole up a little bit better. Now I want to sew these two together. And I want to put wrong sides together. And I'm going to line them up nicely. Now that I have it lined up, before I sew it, I'm going to put a few little dabs of glue, just real lightly, to make sure this doesn't shift around, because this can be, I wouldn't say tricky to sew, but not quite as easy as fabric. Now I'm going to sew this together with my machine, and I'll show you the details of how I'm going to do that in 1 second. But first, I want to talk to you because I know I'll get this question. I am just using my $119 Brother machine, very simple, lightweight, to sew this leather. Back when I made purses years and years ago, before I even sewed my first leather fringe onto a purse, I thought I would need some industrial fancy machine. I wanted to sew leather on bags so badly, but I couldn't afford a big machine. So I just thought, I'll give my brother a brother machine a try, and it worked just fine. You have to go slow. Sometimes you have to do a little hand cranking, but I made hundreds and hundreds of purses with leather fringe with just my brother. So do it at your own risk. I mean, I use a denim needle, jeans needle, and that's all I need. Now I am going to use 1/8 of an inch seam allowance in black thread. I am going to make a couple little marks here to show you. I am not going to sew between here and here because I am going to lightly stuff this so that it has a little dimension. So I will go to my machine and I will start here, go all the way around with a fairly small straight stitch until I get to here. I am just using all-purpose regular thread, Coats & Clark brand. I just have some polyfill here from a throw pillow that I cut open that was laying around here. So I am just going to take this and that little hole we left open. I'm going to stuff it slightly. I don't want it to look pillowy, but I do want it to have a little bit of dimension. Lesson learned here, that little dab of hot glue that we use to help this stay together, well, try to keep that towards the edge because it kind of gets in the way of stuffing it if you don't. I just had to just kind of pull mine apart. Okay, I think that's good. It's not super chubby. Now I'm just going back to my machine and sew that hole closed. Run a stitch right along there. Okay, I have some very basic jewelry making supplies because I use them on purses, headbands, necklaces, even to repair my own jewelry. If a necklace is too short, I can add a chain. So these are just some nice basics to have on hand. Now, usually these don't match, but this set will come in a set of 3 typically, and it's 2 sort of needle nose pliers, one's sort of blunt, one's rounded at the end, and a wire cutter. Now, I typically just like my giant wire cutter from the garage. And the other thing is assorted jump rings. Now, these come in like a bronze, silver, gold, all different sizes. I'll put a link to this in my description because I've used this a ton. Now, what I want to do is add a chain like this onto my deer. And I have lots of broken chains around. I have this mess that's kind of a bronzy color. And I used my wire cutter and I snipped off a 7-inch piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, actually just need a jump ring, put it on this end and attach it to this little ring right here. And then I will do the same to this side and attach it to this ring on this side. Just going to take this with my little pliers, find where it will open, and then I am going to just turn it sideways a little bit, and I'm going to catch this end of the chain there, and then the other end on this ring, and then I'm just going to twist it shut. And then I'm going to do the same to the opposite end of the chain. I have this cool looking little charm. It was on a charm bracelet that I found at a flea market one time. And it already has a jump ring on it, so I just need to open that up. And I'm going to just attach it to a loop that's in that chain. Now, I'm not going to put it right at the bottom like that because I'm not a big fan of symmetry. I will put it off center, maybe about there. Now I have this cool looking chain. It has a key and a heart. The clasp is like that. When I first found this, I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I knew I would do something. So I'm unhooking that because these are just kind of fed through like that. I want to secure these little holes with jump rings. Now, I am going to take the bottom of this chain and snip one of those little wires or loops because I want that open. Now, I am just going to take a couple jump rings. I'm going to attach one to the key in the chain there and one right there. Okay, so I want to attach a chain, this chain, to the heart so that it can be a necklace. So I'm going to go back to my hole punch, and just below that stitch line, I could go on the outside of it, but that's too close to the edge. That would just rip open. So I'm going as close to that stitch line as I can, about right there, and punching a hole through both sides of that leather. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Now I'm just going to stick jump rings through those holes. Now these two jump rings that I just used, I'm grabbing another pair and I'm going to slide them through there. That's kind of tight to the leather. I want something, a ring that's easier to work with. Okay, so now I am just laying this out how I like it, and I am going to just attach one of these rings to this. Now I have to open this back up and move it, and I want it right here, so I'm just going to mark with my pencil the ring I want to attach it to so I don't forget once I move this. So now I am just going to open this back up. And I'm going to slip one of these. And now I want this one about right there. Now I have this cool looking little charm. It already has a loop on it. So I'm just going to open that up a little bit. I marked on the chain with my pencil where I want to put it so I didn't forget. Okay, so I want my chain, here's what the bottom is looking like of this. These will actually lay on top, be really cute. Okay, but my chain is not quite long enough, and I found this piece of broken jewelry. I think it was probably a necklace. And I am going to add that to the chain to make it longer. And I want it to be about right here on the chain. So I am going to, with my big wire cutters, snip. I think maybe I'll take this one off. Just cut one of those rings off. And now I am going to take a jump ring, put it on here, attach it to this chain, and do the same up here. Okay, all done. It's like putting a little puzzle together. Once you have just a few little tools and some rings and doodads, it's really fun to do. And this took me no time. I will bring it in closer and let you see the details. But first, what if we stacked this with more necklaces? What a fun boho look. Now, I'm just going to do that quick for you. I have a little choker, okay, and I have another sort of decorative, cool looking necklace. Put that right there. And some pearls. I love the juxtaposition of this rustic necklace with lace and pearls. And now I just have a long beaded necklace. How fun is that? Thank you so much for watching. Bring it in closer so you can see more of the details.